budget debate of 2016. I wish to thank God first for allowing me this opportunity to be in this honorable house, for giving me the strength and courage to be here this afternoon. I would like to make a few remarks, Mr. Speaker. And listening to the Honorable Minister Nicolette Henry, talking about the National Youth Policy, I have one question for the Honorable Minister. She said, the Honorable Minister said that there were consultation was done. Honorable Minister, can you tell this Honorable House how many indigenous youths participated in that consultation? There must be a register somewhere, Honorable Minister, so I would not take that word too many to mention. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, as I said, I would like to make a few remarks as I continue. Honorable Minister Valerie Patterson, in her presentation yesterday, she said, and Honorable Minister was referring to the APNU AFC government. And the Minister said that we have taken the problem and we have to fix it. I totally agree with the Minister. When the new government took over the country, of course they inherited the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I wish to stay back. I wish to step back a little, because I'm old enough and I've lived through many years, even before independence. And in 1992, when the People's Progressive Party, Civic, took office, they took all the problems too. And they had to fix it. They had to fix it. So what I would like to say, Mr. Speaker, is any government that takes over a country, and once you're talking about development, there would be things that need fixing. And in order to further enhance development, you have to fix things. So it's no strange thing that the APNU AFC government now, I totally agree with the Honorable Minister, you have to fix it, because your government promised this nation, the Guyanese people, a good life for all Guyanese. So fix it. Fix it. Honorable Member Mr. Edwin Rutherford, in his presentation, I quote, "We did not set out to craft a poor people plan." Honorable Member, that is what he said. I agree with you. You have said it. I said it in my mind that this is not a poor people budget, but Honorable Member Rutherford, oh, sorry, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, you must address your remarks to the Speaker.
My apology, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I totally agree with what the Honorable Member said. This is not a poor people plan, and it was said by a member of the government. So, Mr. Speaker, if I should say that this is not a poor people budget, or the budget failed to address the needs of poor people, I don't think I will be wrong. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minister, Ms. Simona Brooms, boasted, Mr. Speaker, boasted about her experience in the area of mining. I am happy that we now have a minister in this house
Who is a minor?
who is very much experienced in mining and who has an interest in mining and who said, and I wish to repeat what the minister said, that the natural resources of this country is God-given. I totally agree with her too. It is God-given.
What about the people in
And that is why we, the indigenous peoples, also should fully benefit from the natural resources of this country.
And she should leave it alone.
Mr. Speaker, what I do not agree with, what the Honorable Minister Simona Broom said, and I find it very insultive, I find it very offensive when she looked on this section of the House and said, the unlearned people. Mr. Speaker, unlearned, what does it mean? With my limited education, I had to go and check my dictionary. And so I went to the Oxford Dictionary and I had to check the word unlearned. And it tells me, unlearned, to cause a thing to be no longer in your knowledge or your memory. I find it offensive. I might be old. I am old. There's no problem with saying that I'm old.
You're looking young.
But I haven't lost my memory. So many things are still in my memory, and I have a very good memory, Mr. Speaker.
Tell them.
So I find it very much offensive when the Honorable Minister look over here and says unlearned. That includes me. And I refuse to accept such word. I refuse to accept such word, Mr. Speaker. Because if I should go back, I would want to say also, while the Honorable Minister boasted about her experience in mining, I would wish to let this Honorable House know that I am a grassroots person. I have nothing to be ashamed. I am also experienced in mining, forestry, and agriculture, and indigenous culture, which I am proud of. So I am offended, Mr. Speaker. But fresh in my memory, in this Honorable House, Mr. Speaker, a member of the government who has interest in mining, has mining blocks within our indigenous lands. And I find that offensive also. And that is very fresh in my memory, in my own learned. And so I wish to say that we have to be careful with our words, because our words can come back to haunt us, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, standing order 40A. Mr. Speaker, I don't own any land that belongs to Amerindian people. I am asking that she retract that incorrect statement. Mr. Speaker, I am standing here on a point of order, sir, and I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, I don't have a land owned by Amerindian.
Member, I thank you for the intervention, but you must tell this House what is the point of order and the matter you're questioning. Please, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I said 40A because she's claiming that I have Amerindian lands. The honorable member is claiming, Mr. Speaker, that I have Amerindian lands. Honorable member, she said Minister Brooms. She said Minister Brooms, Honorable Mr. Speaker. She said Minister Brooms. No, me. Did say Minister Brooms.
Honorable members, we will not do this thing by voice. A preponderance of songs. The honorable member is speaking. The honorable member can say what she said. The other honorable member has challenged a statement she said she understood to have been made by the honorable member. Let the honorable member explain herself. She doesn't need the whole house to prompt her into that. Surely not. Honorable member,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister Brooms has said that there is something which you said which she takes objection to. What is your answer?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to repeat what I said. I said in this very house, a member, an honorable member of the government side, an honorable member of the government side who has mining blocks in an Amerindian village. That is what I said, Mr. Speaker.
I thank you. Honorable member, I do not form the view that in doing so, the honorable minister is engaged. But the court would wish to hear.
I didn't mention Tashiro, and she get up and said that the phone.
Honorable Minister, you wish the floor.
I didn't
Sir,
mention
may I, sir, be heard on a point of order?
the ruling not to be.
Sir, prior to the statement that a member who has blocks in an Amerindian territory being made, it was clear that the context in which the honourable member, Ms. was speaking was a reference to the honourable Minister Brooms. There, sir, in an instance like this, the government asks that Your Honour obtains the transcript of the proceedings, and if, sir, that is, sir, what is recommended. But in the context in which the statement was made was clearly meant to impugn the character and honour of Minister Brooms. There's no doubt about that, sir.
Honorable member, would it be, I'm speaking to the honorable member, Mrs. Yvonne Pearson. So the honorable member will rise. Is it your wish that you would say something further to make clear, or should we, as proposed by the Honorable Minister Trotman, rely on the transcript of the discussion so far? If you are of the view that there is room for you to further explain what your intention and what your context and statement is, then you may do so. Otherwise, we rely on the information provided by the context of recording.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will rely on Hansard.
I thank you. I thank you. Honourable members, what we will do, I thank the Honourable Minister for his suggestion. We will act on that suggestion. Honourable Minister Brooms, we will return to this matter once we've gotten hold of the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to turn my attention to the subject matter, Budget 2016. Under the caption, Stimulating Growth, Restoring Confidence, the Good Life beckons. Mr. Speaker, before I go in more details on the 2016 budget, I wish to say, Mr. Speaker, that the indigenous peoples have lost confidence in the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. Under the stewardship of Honorable Minister and 4th Vice President and Junior Minister, Ms. Garrido Lu. Sorry, Honorable Junior Minister, Mrs. Garrido Lu. Honorable Mr. Speaker, many of our indigenous brothers and sisters throughout the length and breadth of Guyana, we were all looking forward for a good life. However, our two honorable ministers, they have failed to address the issues affecting our people.
Honourable Member, you have 4 minutes remaining.
Mr. Speaker, I must also ask for her normal extension, the 5 minutes, which we agreed to because she's had several interruptions as well. So in addition to time that is still pending, we're adding on the 5 minutes that we agreed to between the two chief whips. Please, sir.
I thank the Honourable Member. I believe the Honourable Member is making the request in relation to the 5 minutes.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Member, you will have 5 minutes additional to the 15 minutes which has been allocated you to speak. You will speak for a total of 20 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we cannot forget. We cannot forget what was done, the action that was taken against our young people. The firing of almost 2,000 of our youths and women. But what I wish to say, Mr. Speaker, as we question in this very House, 18th and 19th of August 2015, and when we used the word ethnic cleansing, we were condemned. However, Honorable Minister, Mr. Sidney Allicock, responded. And I wish to go to Hansard. And what he said, towards this end, the effect from 1st of September 2015, the YIP will be replaced by the Hinterland Employment and Youth Service. 1st of September 2015, that was promised on the 19th of September, on the 19th of August 2015. On the same day, Mr. Speaker, Hansard, on the same day, later on the same day, what the Honorable Minister said again, and I quote, "The good news is that the depressing issues are behind us. It is time that we look to the future in this regard. I am pleased to announce that a program which takes skills training and the life of skills of our young people where they live will be launched on the 1st of October 2015. So right here we have conflicting statements. I guess our Honorable Minister was very much confused on that day. And I think our Honorable Minister is still confused. Because I wish to ask, Mr. Speaker, could the Honorable Minister bring us up to date on where this project is presently? While we know it was launched in Region 8, we would like to know how many other villages, how many of our youth, women, and boys are employed under this project. Mr. Speaker, we can no longer accept this kind of action and decision against our people. Mr. Speaker, on Monday, 17th of August, 2015, in this very House, when the Honorable Minister Valerie Garrido Lu, in her presentation, Hansard, Budget 2015, and I quote, Budget 2015, with its 2020 vision, gives Guyanese much hope. It gives much hope to the hinterland population, especially our indigenous brothers and sisters, who have suffered from starvation years after year, starvation from the non-existent village economy, starvation from trained teachers, starvation in our school, starvation from poverty, trained health personnel in our hospitals, health centers, and health huts, starvation from the lack of proper roads, starvation from the lack of proper housing. Honorable Mr. Speaker, this is a lot of starvation that the Honorable Minister mentioned about. I wish to ask Honorable Minister Garrido Low, in this 2016 budget, how the government aim to solve all this problem of starvation. Mr. Speaker, all this starvation that the minister mentioned in 2015, how are we going to address it in the 2016 budget? And this is not a poor people budget, Mr. Speaker. I wish to say, added to this list of starvation that the minister, I would think that some of our people are really faced with starvation now. Why am I saying this? Because the little that they had, it was taken away. And with the issue of El Nino and all other issues, I want to feel that really our people might be starving for food now. And I ask the Honorable Minister and Fourth Vice President, Honorable Sidney Allicock and Honorable Garrido Low, what provisions are put in place to feed our people or to stop starvation in our villages and communities.
Honourable Member, you have 4 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I attempt to look and to examine what has been provided, proposed, or what has been said by the Honorable Minister of Finance, Honorable Minister Jordan. With my limited time, I wish to say, Mr. Speaker, on page 18, I just wish to quote, the sum is inclusive of a grant for 211 indigenous communities. On page 18, you can find that will build village economy and fund ecotourism projects, specifically for the nation's 50th independence celebration. It also includes support for women's group and construction of community centers and procurement of musical instruments, sport gears, and sewing machine. Mr. Speaker, I need some clarification here. Funds would be provided for 211 communities and villages. I wish to ask the Honorable Minister of Finance, are we talking about the Amerindian Development Funds, where every village had to prepare what we called a community development plan, or are we talking about another project? That's one of my questions.
You have 2 minutes remaining, madam.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, under the People's Progressive Party government, we used to assist villages and communities with health centers, community buildings, sewing machine, transportation, ATV. And at that time, Mr. Speaker, in this very house, I sat in the gallery there, and I heard those things were deemed as handouts to our people. It was said that those things are handout. And I remember clearly that the Honorable Minister of Indigenous Affairs, at that time he was the opposition, our Honorable Minister, he said that they will no longer give handouts. You will teach the people to fish, and you wouldn't give them a fish every day. But in so doing, Mr. Speaker, I wish to say, when you're teaching people to fish, you might still have to give them the rod and the bait and even show them where to fish. Mr. Speaker, I wish I had more time, but I wish to turn my attention to the issue of land, because land is our life, it is our culture. And I wish to ask the Honorable Minister and Fourth Vice President, what happened to our Amerindian land titling project, known as the ALT? What happened to it? 6 villages are waiting their title, 32 villages are waiting extension. And when I examine this presentation, I need to ask that question, particularly when I look at the plans for agriculture in riverine, in the intermediate savanna, and in the rural areas. And when I know...
Honourable Member, your time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next speaker is the Honourable Valerie Garrido-Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Honorable Winston Jordan, Minister of Finance, and his very able team for crafting a budget that caters for the long-term growth and development for all Guyanese. One which is so structured to help our people experience the good life that they truly deserve. Oh, God. This 2016 budget, stimulating growth, restoring confidence, the good life beckons, is exciting and a ration. It speaks of development on a large scale, which again is beneficial to all Guyanese. I would like to address, Mr. Speaker, the statement made by Honorable Yvonne Pearson when she said that the indigenous peoples have lost confidence in the honorable member, has lost confidence in Vice President Sidney Alicock and Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs and myself as Minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. I would like to remind the honorable member that on May 11, 2015, the people of Guyana, including my indigenous people, our indigenous people, expressed confidence in the APNU-AFC coalition. We continue to enjoy this confidence. Our people express no confidence in and rejection of the party of the honorable member, Ms. Pearson. They were demoted from government to opposition. And will remain there. In my portfolio as minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, I must say that I am pleased with the allotment towards our indigenous people. I am excited that at long last, the hinterland, home to our indigenous brothers and sisters, is getting its fair share of the pie. Yes, yes, yes. Besides the 176.5 million allocated for the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs current budget and the 1.4 billion allocated towards the capital budget, the hinterland is further provided for within all 5 pillars of this budget. Mr. Speaker, this budget offers much hope to our Indigenous brothers